Joining us now by phone, attorney Lin Wood, who has been working with Sidney Powell. So, Mr. Wood, how is it looking? What is the prospect of actually making progress, and where does that stand, sir?
Well, I have been helping Sidney, but Sidney Powell is a warrior, and she's not going to quit. And I believe the United States Supreme Court is going to have to address the election fraud from the November 3rd election. And I believe that there is overwhelming evidence in Sidney Powell's case that supports a review by the Supreme Court. I also filed a lawsuit on my own behalf as a voter, and I have today filed a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, and I am very hopeful that the court will grant a review of my case. So we've got a couple of cases coming out of Georgia. There may be a couple of more. There are going to be cases filed from around the country. This issue is of grave importance to our country. The country is divided. The country needs to have this matter resolved by the highest court in the land. The Supreme Court needs to take a hold of this and fix this fraud.
Yeah, Lin, I would call you a warrior as well. I was actually working in Georgia at the time when you represented and took on the case of Richard Jewell. I wanted to ask you, because last night you were sending out on social media notices about this case that you have filed as well. What are the specifics of that, and how is it different?
Well, I think Sidney's case covers part of this, but my case is simple. I contend that the election conducted on 11/3 was unlawful and unconstitutional because the absentee ballots procedure was a procedure that was set out in a backroom deal between the Secretary of State and the law firm of Perkins Coie and the Democratic Party. Perkins Coie is Hillary Clinton's law firm. They cut a deal in May of March, and they changed dramatically the absentee mail ballot procedure. The law is clear that a change like that can only be made lawfully by the Georgia legislature. They did it in the dead of night in a back room. Many legislators were not even aware of that deal. I found out about it within 2 or 3 days of the election. I saw that it was obviously a procedure set up for fraud. So I filed my lawsuit contending that the election is unlawful and unconstitutional.
And what kind of remedy would you seek, sir?
Well, it violated my equal protection rights as a voter. They set up a different procedure, easier for absentee ballots, harder for people like me that voted in person, and it diluted my vote, very similar to the lawsuit filed by the state of Texas. The remedy is simply to declare the law that the election was unlawful. Then the Georgia legislature has got to take action. Our governor here is corrupt. He refuses to call a special session, but when the court rules, if it does, that the election was unlawful, then he's got to call a special session in order to not disenfranchise the entire voting population of the state of Georgia.
Okay, and this... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just still hung up on the law firm that you mentioned because they specifically were involved in compiling the dossier against President Trump. And so now you're saying they're involved in changing the ballots, the absentee ballots specifically in Georgia?
Absolutely. Perkins Coie was one of the law firms that cut the deal with the Secretary of State. Perkins Coie has got its fingerprints all over every piece of litigation in this country where they are consistently urging that the courts not allow the citizens of this country to review and analyze forensically the voting machines or the actual absentee ballots. If there's nothing to hide, why are they hiding it? I think there's a lot to hide. It's coming out one way or the other. Every lie will be revealed. Perkins Coie is right there in the thick of this dirty election, and I think they ought to be held accountable, too.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Lin Wood joining us by phone there.
Yeah, that's some news I hadn't heard.
All right. Keep it here on Newsmax and Spicer & Company.